Hey, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to build out a small application for doing some simple screen recordings. We're going to use some JavaScript APIs to record some screens, and then we will store that footage as blobs in Active Record with active storage. So let's get started. So we're going to say Rails new, let's call it record my screen. And we'll skip tests and we'll set the database equal to Postgres. And we will also skip turbo links. And that should get us started. Okay. All right, while that's downloading, I'm going to open up a couple more tabs here. And in another tab, I'm going to jump into that record my screen directory. And I'm going to, let's see. This will be our pane for running the Rails server. So let's also split this vertically and go into that record my screen. And we will, we'll use this right-hand side for running the Webpack dev server. I need to set my local node env to 10.17.0 so that I can actually use Webpacker. Okay, this thing is still installing, so that's fine. This is going to be webpack dev server, and then this side is going to be Rails server. Once this all starts, once this all finishes. So the idea will be that we're going to create a model and store it in the database called record or recording. All right, so it looks like that finished. So cd record my screen, and then we'll have a view where you can start, stop, and then save a recording. So that's the goal for today. So that's what I think we're going to try to build out. All right, so let's start our Rails server. Let's start our Webpack dev server, and we want to say like rake db create, db migrate, all the stuff we do at the beginning of every single Rails app that we start up. All right, so now we've got the database migrated. Let's set up the active storage. So we have to say Rails active storage : install. That's going to create a migration, which will add tables to our database for storing like the blobs. And those are going to be like polymorphically associated to objects. So when we say Rails G model recording, we actually just need to give it the fields that are not related to the actual file. So in this case, I'm going to give it a key. The key will be some like unique identifier, so we can maybe send a link to the recording. So someone could navigate directly to like /recording/key, and then that would fetch their recording, so they could just do a quick screen recording and then share a link to it. All right, so that will create a model in the database called recording. Let's go edit this create recordings migration really quickly. We want the key to be non-nullable, and let's give it an index also, add index, because we're going to look up the recordings by this key. We want it to be a fast lookup, and then we'll say unique true. That'll also add a uniqueness constraint, so we can say rake db migrate. And then in our recording model, what we want to do is we want to have a validation that says when the recording is saved, we'll give it a key. So we're going to say before validation on create do, and we're going to say self.key is equal to secure random dot. Oh, I always forget what this is. Let's see, Rails. Let's see. So I'm going to use the Rails console to remember what the methods are on secure random. Okay, so secure random dot methods dot sort minus class dot new dot methods, and I think I want to use URL safe base 64. So this one, and then I'll just pass in like 4 or something just to make it short. And then the other thing we want to do in the recording is say has one attached, and then we'll call the field file. So by doing this has one attached, it's going to create a polymorphic association between the stuff that's in the active storage database tables and the recording. So the data doesn't actually live in the recording table, it lives in the other table, and then that other table references back to this. It's magic. I don't know how it works exactly, but under the hood, we're using active storage, and all we have to do is add this one method here at the top to save a file with our recording. So I think that should work, and now we can say Rails G controller recordings, and we're going to have, let's see, we're going to have a route for creating a new recording. We want to have a route for showing a recording, and I think that should be good to start. And this is actually going to be so simple that we're just going to have one route that's our root route, and it's going to go to recordings new, and then we'll have a get route to like /r/ like ID or something, or maybe key, yeah, and that will go to recordings show. That way we can say something like, localhost 3000 /r/ and then abc123, and that will pull up the recording for that. That way it's pretty short, but we still have like a little bit of a namespace with that with the /r here. All right, so let's go to our recordings controller, and in here in the new route we want to probably have a recording .new, just so that we can fill something in if we wanted to use this on the form. I'm not sure yet. And then for the show route, we want to find the recording. Recording is equal to recording.find by params, or like key, params key. And that should look up the recording by that key, and then we'll just build out a show page that will show the recording. And then we also need a create action in here. And this create action is going to create the new recording. So this is going to be where we accept post requests. And so we're going to say recording is equal to recording.new recording params. And then if we save that recording, then we'll just render the JSON back for that recording, because we're going to hit this endpoint with AJAX, I think. Else we want to render the JSON for @recording.errors.full messages, and we need to create this recording params thing. So we'll say params.require recording.permit file, because that file is what we want to pass in from the front end. Okay, so I think our recordings controller is looking pretty good. Let's head over to the front end and implement some of this stuff on the view. So our recording new page, it's going to say like record my screen. Okay, so what are we actually going to have here? I think we'll have maybe a couple of buttons. We need a button to start button, start, and we're going to need a button to stop. And then let's also add a button to save btn, save. And I think that should get us pretty far with just 3 buttons there. So we've got our servers running. Let's pull up localhost 3000 and poke around. Let's see, localhost 3000. So we should land, okay, cool, record my screen. This is exactly what we want. Start, stop, and save. And then if we open up the console here, let's go add some JavaScript now. So in the JavaScript packs thing here, I'm gonna add a recording.js. So I'm gonna add a brand new pack, and I'm gonna say only run this when the DOM is fully loaded, and we're gonna grab reference to those buttons. So start button, stop button, and the save button. Okay, and then I'm going to add click handlers for each of these, and we'll just log out started, stopped, and saved. All right, let's go test those out. So if we refresh the page here and we click start, we don't see anything, and that is because we haven't actually installed the JavaScript pack tag. So I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to install the pack tag directly on the new page. So here I'm just going to add a, oh gosh, how does this work? JavaScript pack tag for recording, and the name of this matches this, and the hope is that our Webpack dev server is actually like picking up that file. We might need to restart this thing because we started the Webpack dev server before we created that recording pack. So I'm restarting it, and I think it should have picked it up. I see recording something here. So now when we refresh the page, we should have some JavaScript installed. Start recording, stop recording, save recording. Okay, so that is looking good. Now what we want to do is say when we start recording, we actually need to do a couple of different things. So the first part of this is to actually do some capture. We want to do some capture of the screen. And then the second part is we want to like record that capture. So there's two different steps. So one is like getting access to the screen and then like creating a stream or some tracks from that stream. And then the second part is using a media recorder to actually like collect up those tracks and then do something with the data as it's streaming in. So let's start off with maybe starting the capture. So let's go over to our JavaScript here in the recording, and we're going to create a new function down here, async function start capture. And I think this is going to return, so this is going to like actually like get access to the screen and return a stream. Okay, so what does this actually look like? Const, let's see. So this is going to be a stream, or like let stream. Then we need a try catch block and console.error e. And then what we want to try is we want to try setting the stream equal to await navigator.mediadevices.getDisplayMedia. And we can pass in an object if we want with some arguments. Audio false. That's like if you wanted to capture the audio of what's playing on the desktop screen. So we don't actually want that audio or care about that audio. So I think that's fine. And then we'll just return the stream here. And so in our start function, we want to say like const, or we want the stream back. Stream is equal to await start capture. And then instead of creating a global variable here, we'll make a let stream, because we're going to want to pass that stream around for a couple other things. So that should start the capture. And then when we want to stop the capture down here, we want to go, let's call stop capture. And this will be another function. And this will take in the stream. And we want to iterate over the tracks for the stream. So we're going to say stream.getTracks.for each. And for each track, we want to call stop on each track. Track.stop. And that should stop the recording. All right, so I think this is the bare minimum for just like handling the capture piece for the screen. So let's go back over here, refresh the page and click start. Okay, so now we get this dialog that asks us, do we like which part of our screen we want to record, a window or the whole screen or whatever. So we can click share, and now we have started sharing. You can see this is this tab is sharing your screen, whatever. And now we can hit stop, and we have an error. Cannot read property get tracks of undefined because we didn't pass it in to stop capture stream. Okay, so at that point, I think we should be good to go. Let's try this again. Test, 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 stop. Okay, so now we've got start recording and we've got stop recording. So that is the capture piece. Now we need to do the recording piece of that capture. So I think I actually want different functions for the recording piece. So let's do async function start recording. And we're going to pass again in, I think we're going to pass in the stream here. And what we want to do here for the recording is we want to create a media recorder from that stream, and we want to start the media recorder. And I think for start recording, this is actually going to return the media recorder. So const recorder is equal to new media recorder for the stream. And I think, I can't remember if we want to pass in any settings or anything to this. But whatever, this should get us at least going. So recorder.start. So that should actually start the recording for the given stream. So then when we click the start button up here, let's also say await. Actually, is this, I don't know if that's actually, we'll see. I don't know, maybe we don't even need async here. That's okay. So we'll just say start recording and we'll pass in the stream. All right, so then when we call stop recording, do we need to, oh yeah, so when we call stop recording, we need to actually stop, yeah, we need to call stop recording. And I think we want to pass the recording in, or the recorder. So let's also keep track of the recorder here. And when we call stop recording, we'll pass in the recorder. And we'll make a new function here, stop recording. And we'll take in the recorder. And I think we want to call recorder.stop. And I can't remember if there's anything else we're going to do in here. Probably, yeah, that should be good, I think. So, okay. So that should stop the recorder. Now, what do we actually do with this data? Well, as the recorder receives pieces of data, it should get something like recorder.onDataAvailable. And that's going to be a function that emits events as data becomes available. And these events are going to have like event or like e.data. They'll have blobs, or I think they're like chunks of data. And every time this onDataAvailable event fires on the recorder, we want to collect up all of those chunks. And then ultimately, when we save, we want to pass those chunks down to the server. We could be like streaming them down to the server or something, but instead I think we'll just limit the maximum duration for a recording, and then we'll just keep everything sort of like in memory. And I think that should be fine. So what we want to do with this is we actually want to add these to some array. And I think we're going to need that array when we call save from this like upper class. So let's actually call this chunks here, and then we'll pass it down when we start recording chunks. And then when that event fires, we're going to add that data into the chunks array. So we'll say like chunks.push e.data. And so that should modify the array and just keep adding to it as data is available, which I think should work. Okay, so what we should do now is test and make sure this stuff is working. So when we say stop recording, why don't we just say, let's console.log chunks, and then we'll refresh this page, and we'll say start recording, record this screen over here, and we're doing stuff, and then we say stop. All right, so we got chunks, and it's an array that has a blob. Cool. And it has a size, and it's using this video codec. So all of that looks cool. All right, so now what we want to do is take all of these chunks, and when we click save, we actually want to take all the chunks and create a file object and pass it down to the server using AJAX so that we can create one of those recording objects. So let's do that now. So when we call save, we want to call maybe like const recording is equal to await save recording, and we'll pass down the chunks. Let's come down here, async function save recording, and we'll take in the chunks. And then what we want to do is we want to create a file. So file is new file. We're going to pass in chunks, and then we want to pass in a couple other arguments here. So the type is going to be like the MIME type for the file, and I think we can use video/webm. And then we also want to pass a file name, which can just be like recording.webm or something. I think that file name thing is a requirement for active storage. Okay, so then what we want to do is construct the form data that we're going to send to the backend. So const form data is a new form data, and form data.append. And now this is going to be like sort of that URL encoded format. So we want to pass in recording and then square brackets file. So this is the top level key for the params, and then file is going to be like nested inside of that hash, and the value here is going to be that file object. And then we can use the fetch API. Fetch, it's going to be a post request, and we're going to get back the recording. We're actually just going to return, the whole recording. We'll make this a post request to /recordings, and I'm remembering that in our routes, we don't actually have a route for that. So post to /recordings to record. Actually, let's just say resources recordings, because we might want to do other stuff too. So, all right, we don't want to pass a content type, but we do need to pass our CSRF token, which we can get out of the page here. So every time the page reloads, you should get a CSRF token. So this is something that Rails is doing for you on like automatically. And so at the very top here, notice that we have this meta tag that has the name CSRF token. And then the content here is what we actually want to pass as our CSRF token in the X CSRF token header. I feel like back in the day, AJAX and Rails UJS did like some of this for you. But now that we're using the Fetch API, I just like either skip the authenticity check, which is bad practice, or I will look up the CSRF token. So I think we can do like document.get element by name or something. Get elements by name, and then pass in CSRF token. And that gives us a node list. So we want the first one, and we want its content, and that should give us the CSRF token. Another way to do this is if you're in ERB, you can do something like authenticity token or something like that. Rails authenticity token. There are like ERB helpers to get this, but because we're in JavaScript, we don't have access to those. We're in like the JavaScript pack tag, so we can't use like ERB or something right here. Or I mean, maybe we could, but we're not going to. Const token is equal to this thing. So that's what we're going to pass down for the token. And then we want to pass the form data as the body here. I think the content type, we technically want to pass like multi-part form or something like that. But I found that if we just leave the header out, Rails can figure out what we're passing down because we are passing a file. So this is the save recording logic. We're expecting to send a post request with that file that we just created based on the chunks that were recorded. And then it should, it should return a new recording object. Okay, so when we get back to here, why don't we console.log recording. All right, so let's give this a whirl. So we're gonna refresh the page, click start, pick our screen. All right, we're recording, and then we hit stop, and we've logged out some chunks. Okay, and then when we hit save, we should make an API request to /recordings to save that file. All right, so we made a post request, we got a 200 back, and in the console, we're logging out that recording. Notice it has this key that was like randomly generated from secure random. That's nice. It doesn't actually have a file object on it, which is totally fine. But now what we want to do is go look in the Rails server. Oh, look at that, active storage blob update. Okay, so it looks like it may have actually saved some stuff. So we've got a recording and yeah, action dispatch uploaded file. Okay, so this is all looking pretty good. Why don't we go see if that recording worked? So let's go to recording show. We'll just call it recording. And then we want to use a video tag here, video tag. And it's going to require a URL as like the source. So we're going to say URL for @recording.file. So that should give us like the fully qualified URL for the file. And yeah, okay. So let's see if we can go to that. Let's see what happened to our console here. Console, oh no, we lost our, okay, so let's Rails C, recording.last.key. That's what we want to look at. All right, so if we go to like /r/that key, oh, look at that. Okay, cool. So it pulled up our recording and it's massive. So we got to fix the size. So let's fix the size first. So we're going to say size is, oh gosh, what is it? 680 by 460? I can't remember what like okay, whatever, that looks fine. And then we also want our controls so that we can push play. All right, look at that. Okay, we hit play. Oh, look at, oh, amazing. Okay, you can see the screen recording. So this is it. This is amazing. This is what we wanted. We're going to go through the process of also recording our voice. And there's a couple little tricks to it because in order to save that video file with the combined tracks of voice and the screen video input, we need to make some refactors to break out those different pieces and make sure they get passed in correctly. So in order to refactor this, what we need to do is split out our capture. So start capture needs to be refactored a little bit because in addition to the screens stream, we also need some audio stream. So what I want to do here is say like voice stream. So we're going to add in a second stream here. So voice stream is await navigator dot use or media devices dot get user media, I think. And here we want to pass in video false because we don't want to capture camera or anything yet, and then audio true. And then instead of returning a stream here, what I think we can do is, so we were returning the single stream that was the result of the resolution of this promise. And now what we could do is return the arrays of tracks. But I think what we want to do is actually create a new media stream from the combinations of those tracks. So we'll say const tracks is equal to stream.get tracks and voice stream.get tracks. This one also needs to be spread. And then we'll return a new media stream of tracks. And that should return a new media stream that we can use. I think we can use everything else very similarly. Yeah, so when we stop the capture, we'll just iterate over all the tracks and stop them. And then as we're recording, we should be able to take in that media stream. So I think this might work. That was actually a very small refactor, but let's see if we can get that working. So if we refresh the page and let's open the terminal and we click start, we pick which screen we want to record. So I'm picking this screen here. And then I think the very first time that you do this, it's going to ask you if you want to use your audio. I've done a few different episodes about recording audio, so I think it's already got that permission. So here we see it's sharing our screen. All right, so if we click stop, all right, we've got some chunks, and then if we hit save, those should be uploaded, and now we have a new key here for recording. So if we go to /r/ that recording, now this is the moment of truth. Does it have audio? Let's see, play. Oh, amazing. Wow, okay. So that was actually way simpler than I expected. All right, so that is how you combine multiple different recordings, is by creating a new list of tracks and creating a brand new media stream, which is the combination of all those tracks. Okay, so yeah, so now we have a working tool for creating recordings and saving them and then sharing a link directly to them. In the next episode, I think I'm going to go through the process of showing how to set up an active storage backend so that we can actually upload these files to some service, and then and then we can publish this on Heroku and have a little screen recording service. So I think that's the next step.